Hello, my name is Catherine Wright and I'm the Archivist with Wicklow County Archives here in Wicklow Town. Like most local authority archives, we hold the records of the County Council, but we also hold the records of the various predecessor bodies such as the Town Commissioners and the Poor Law Union, and the records that we're going to talk about today, the Wicklow Grand Jury. The Wicklow Grand Jury met twice a year at the spring and summer assizes, where they discussed the proposed presentments for works to be carried out around the county and approved those works and payments. So the first series of records we're going to look at today are the Presentment Books, which are printed lists of those works, and they contain quite a lot of detail about the officials who worked for the Grand Jury, their salaries, where a lot of where the work took place, at the location of the roads that were repaired. And what is very valuable to the local and family historian is that a lot of the people who were resident on that property are named, and particularly in terms of the townland that they lived in. So this can be a great way of locating an ancestor. For instance, here we have a description of contractor Andrew Byrne, who carried out work in Wooden Bridge and in between Mr. Sherwood's Gate in Killihurler and James Finn's Bridge. So you can see the amount of detail about the people who lived there who may not have been captured in other official records of the day. So it's highly valuable to family historians. And then when it comes to the officials working for the Grand Jury, we have Edward Storey, who was the governor of Wicklow Jail, along with his wife Mary Storey, the matron. We actually had the descendants of Edward and Mary Storey contacted us a few years ago, and we were able to research this couple. Edward started out as a turnkey or prison officer in the jail and married the matron, Mary Morris. In 1858 they had a large family, and Edward worked his way up to becoming governor of the jail. He was actually essentially the last governor of the jail before it was downgraded to a bridewell in 1876. And the presentments here show their pension payments under superannuation. So we had public service pensions even in those times. This brings us on to another series of records that we have here in Wicklow Archives, the payment books for the Grand Jury. And we see here Edward's pension payment, which at the time was £75, quite a lot of money in those days. It was quite a high status position to hold. And other officials working for the Grand Jury, including Carter Draper, who would have been the county surveyor at that time. We have courthouse expenses, the town crier, and other people working for the Grand Jury and the payments made to them. So quite a lot of information here for the local historian. So the Grand Jury, as the years went on, was considered to become increasingly corrupt. Many landlords sought to increase the value of their own estates by getting works done, maybe that were not particularly in the public interest, but more from the estate's perspective. And often public works were not checked on completion. So the English government, to try and reform the system, introduced the office of the county surveyor. And here we have some beautiful hand-drawn plans from the county surveyor Henry Brett, who drew these plans in 1876. These were for the refurbishment of the courthouse in Wicklow town. This is where the Grand Jury would have met, and as you can see, there's fabulously ornate decorations on the ceiling and the cornices. Presumably the Grand Jury would have felt that this would have reflected their status. I think you will agree that the records of the Wicklow Grand Jury are hugely valuable to researchers of all interests, especially local and family historians. We see evidence of the development of the infrastructure of the county, and many of the roads, bridges and public buildings we see around us today were built and maintained under the aegis of the Wicklow Grand Jury. We also get a sense of what life was like in the county, the social conditions of the time. We see mentions of the upkeep of orphans and deserted children, the accompaniment of prisoners, and the various salaries for the officials that worked for the Grand Jury. Perhaps most importantly for family historians are the references to the various people and the home places they lived in, the kinds of works that were done on their property and the contractors who were working for the grand jury at that time. If you would like to come and visit the Wicklow County Archives, our contact details are on wicklow.ie, and you will also find our digitised collections on wicklow.ie also, including the presentment records of the grand jury that we looked at today.